Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Migratory Monk channel. A comprehensive bird's eye view of worldwide human activity reveals that Vedic culture and Sanskrit language were the fountainhead of it all. Hereby, I am going to give you few examples. Number one, children's literatures such as Hitopadesa and Panchatantra were not only taught worldwide in ancient times but inspired similar efforts such as Aesop's fables in Europe and Arabian Nights in West Asia. Literature on erotics too is obviously based on scientific Bharatiya text dealing with Ratik alias Rati Shastra. The word erotic is a corruption of the Sanskrit word ratik. Number two, the word sport is a corruption of the Sanskrit word spardha, signifying competition. The sports competitions of Kaurava prince described in the ancient world history Mahabharata provided the model for the Greek Olympics. Similarly, chess, which has been of Vedic origin, has had a worldwide following only because Vedic culture had permeated the world. Even snakes and ladders, which is fancied to be a modern game, is of very Vedic origin. Sir S. Y. Wakankar, a Sanskrit scholar, points out that, quote, it is known as Mokshapath of Jnanadev in Maharashtra and as Jhanchopath in Gujarat and also as Parampad Sonpath in the southern Bharat, unquote. Now example number 3. The science of music known as Sangeet was obviously in vogue in the West, as is apparent from the words like sing, song, singing, and singer. As for other branches of human endeavor, being of Vedic origin, we have already discussed them in the other episodes of this channel. The presumption that worldwide means of communication and transport having been developed by man only in modern age, and there could not have been a united world in ancient times, is not true. In the Kruta, Treta, and Dwapara Yugas, humanity had recourse even to interstellar travel and communication. In any case, even in medieval times, great conquerors could transport their armies to distant lands by seacraft and on horseback. In the pre-Christian era, humanity did have access to all lands around the globe. This is proved by several finds such as a naval bell with a Tamil inscription found on the seabed of Australia and New Zealand. A ship of the BC era with the image of Buddha on it was found under the icebound sea near Denmark. Ancient statues and temples and cities bearing a stamp of Bharat and Vedic culture have been located in almost all continents and even in remote islands. References are available in history about Hindu naval experts assisting people in Africa and other continents to safely navigate the high seas. From this, it should be clear that current beliefs about Columbus discovering America or some Chinese discovering America some centuries before Columbus are mere chauvinistic guesses arising from medieval ignorance. Under the world Vedic administration, naval lanes from Bharat led to all parts of the world. That is why the vast stretch of the sea from South America to Australia bears the name Indian Ocean, alias Hind Mahasagar, or the real name Sindhu Mahasagar. Likewise, Atlantic and Mediterranean are all Sanskrit words. The White Sea and Red Sea are translation of ancient Sanskrit names. Global navigation has been a Vedic heritage, as is apparent from its Sanskrit terminology. In medieval times, Bharat was overtaken by a period when Hindus were cautioned against venturing abroad, as one warns people to keep off riot stricken areas. That was because tearful accounts of horrid Muslim barbarities were pouring in, and country after country from Arabia to Afghanistan had been terrorized into accepting Islam. That temporary caution has been misinterpreted by misguided and evil minded scholars to spread the belief that Hindus were not seafarers. An emphatic rebuttal of that mistaken belief is provided by the overwhelming evidences of Hindu rule in the entire Pacific region, or at least a large part of it, such as Burma, Siam, Malaysia, Singapore, Borneo, Korea, and Indochina. Colonel James Todd records, quote, that the Hindus navigated the ocean from the earliest ages. The traces of their religion in the isles of the archipelago sufficiently attest, unquote. Edward Pocock states, quote, that the people of the country of the Indus, ranked as navigators in the most vulnerable antiquity, is perfectly clear from the ancient institutes of Manu, where merchants who traffic beyond the sea and bring presents to the king are expressly mentioned. In the Ramayana, the practice of bottomry is distinctly noticed. Hiren's Indian states on page 124, quote, in fact, no law had ever forbidden this species of commerce. On the contrary, the institutes of Manu contain several regulations which tacitly allow it, in giving the force of law to all commercial contracts relative to danger incurred by sea or land, unquote. Lord Parasuram was a great Vedic warrior who led 21 expeditions around the world to chastise Kshatriya administrators who had become unruly in the days before Lord Ram. In one such expedition, his axe-bearing troopers overran the country we know as Persia. In Sanskrit, the battle axe is known as Parasu. According to Pocock, page 45 of his book, the land subdued and later governed by the Parasu-bearing troops came to be called Parasika alias Persia. The term Chaldeans, according to Pocock, is the Sanskrit term Kuladev, meaning family gods, alias elders such as Devas or Brahmins. He adds, quote, the ancient map of Persia, Kolkis, and Armenia is absolutely full of the most distinct and startling evidences of Indian colonization. And what is more astonishing, practically evinces in the most powerful manner the truth of several main points in the great Indian poems, the Ramayana and Mahabharata. The whole map is positively nothing less than a journal of immigration on the most gigantic scale, unquote. The river Oxus, commonly believed to bear a Greek name, is in fact the Sanskrit term oxus, OOXUS, abbreviated as ox in English, meaning bull. On page 53 of his book, Pocock observes, quote, "The European, Scandinavian and the Indian Kshatriyas or warrior caste are identical," unquote. In Vedic tradition, Skanda, the warrior son of Lord Shiva, is the commander-in-chief of the celestial army. The latter syllable, Navya, is a perfect Sanskrit word signifying a naval expedition and settlement. The Scandinavian region is consequently a Vedic settlement initiated by or in the name of Skanda since time immemorial. Koilon is the heaven of the Greeks and Coelium that of Romans. Both these words are derived from the Vedic term Kailas, says Pocock in his book India in Greece, page number 68. The region known as Thessalia is the Sanskrit term Des-Sali, meaning the land of rice, explains Pocock, page 92 of his book. Mount Othria got its name from Sanskrit Adris, meaning Lord of the Mountains. Greek Kashyapoi is the Sanskrit term Kashyapya, signifying a member of the Kashyap clan or a descendant of Kashyapa Rishi. All my discoveries, elucidated through several episodes, have maintained that all historic churches and so-called tombs and mosques throughout the world are captured and misused edifices of earlier Hindu Kshatriya rulers. A remarkable confirmation of that finding is found in Pocock's observation that, quote, "The children of the great Surya, means solar rays, of northern India are throughout the world to be recognized by their gigantic buildings and still more distinctly by those massive walls and great public works which strike the beholder with astonishment, alike in Rome, Greece, Italy, Peru, Egypt, and Ceylon," unquote. I may add that historic buildings in Cordoba, Baghdad, Bokhara, Samarkand, Istanbul, Kabul, etc. are all pre-Islamic and pre-Christian Hindu buildings. Mr. Franz Coumont, born January 3, 1868, professor in the University of Ghent, is the author of text 8, Monuments, Figures, Relatives Ox, Mysteries, D. Mitra. These are Latin words. In 2 volumes. Thomas J. McCormack translated the work into English as the Mysteries of Mitra. Coumont's other work is Les Religions Orientales than Le Paganisme Romain in 1906. Its English translation is Oriental Religions. Coumont describes life in Rome at a time when Christianity was only one of a numerous array of foreign religions struggling for recognition. Mr. Grant Shoreman of the University of Wisconsin, in his introduction to the book Oriental Religions, observes that, quote, "People of the pre-Christian pagan faith in Rome were able to hold their own and even to contest the ground with Christianity because they gave greater satisfaction first to the senses and passions, secondly to the intelligence, finally and above all to the conscience they had for hoary traditions and basis of science and culture. their fine ceremonial, the excitement attendant, or their mysteries, their deities with heart of compassion, their cultivation of the social bond, their appeal to conscience, and their promises of purifications and reward in a future life. Christianity took from its opponents their own weapons and used them. The better elements of paganism were transferred to the new religion, means Christianity, unquote. This clearly proves that Christianity is nothing but the copy paste of distorted Vedic Hindu Sanatana Dharma. In the preface, Command observes, quote, without a doubt, certain ceremonies and holidays of the church were based on pagan models. In the 4th century, Christmas was placed on the 25th December because on that date was celebrated the birth of the sun, unquote. On page 2, again, Kumont remarks, quote, it is in the Orient, especially in these centuries of old civilization, that we must look for industry and riches, for technical ability and artistic productions, as well as for intelligence and science, unquote. The great astronomers, mathematicians, and physicians, like the originators or defenders of the great metaphysical system, were mostly Orientals. For example, Ptolemy, Plotinus were Egyptians, Porphyry and Iamblichus, Syrians, Dioscorides and Galen, Asiatics. So all branches of learning affected by the spirit of the Orient. In page 6, Kumon says, quote, letters as well as science were cultivated chiefly by the Orientals. Those men of letters that were considered the purest representatives of the Greek spirit under the empire belonged almost without exception to Asia Minor, Syria or Egypt, unquote. In page number 8, Kumon states, quote, not even the important discoveries of M.D. Vague in Huran were sufficient to prove the emptiness of the theory that was supported by our lofty conviction of European leadership. Rome, then, far from having established her suzerainty, was merely a tributary to the Orient in this respect, unquote. For knowledge of my viewers, I want to inform them that the Huran is not a single ancient city, but rather a vast historically significant volcanic plateau spanning southern western Syria and northwestern Jordan. However, the region is home to numerous deeply ancient and legendary cities that have been inhabited for millennia. Viewers can go to the Google and check for it. In his book, Oriental Religions, Kumon says, page number 12 and 13, quote, everything is gone. We should feel this loss less keenly if we possess the works of Greek and Latin mythographers on the subject of foreign divinities, like the voluminous book published during the 2nd century by Eusebius and Pallas on the mysteries of Mithra. But those works were thought devoid of interest or even dangerous by the devout Middle Ages, and they are not likely to have survived the fall of paganism. There is no period of the Roman Empire concerning which we are so little informed as the 3rd century, precisely on one during which the Oriental religions reached the apogee of their power. From Herodotus and Dion Cassius to the Byzantines, and from Suetonius to Amnianus Marcellinus, All narratives of any importance have been lost, and this deplorable blank in historic tradition is particularly fatal to the study of paganism. Unquote. So we can very easily understand how Europeans destroyed their Vedic past. The emergence of Christianity in Europe led to the systematic destruction of all evidence concerning ancient Vedic rites and record, as mentioned earlier. To add insult to injury, neo-convert Christian authors started pouring ridicule on pre-Christian traditions. Thus, Juvenal laughs at the mortifications of the devotees of Isus. In the necromancy, Lucen parodies the interminable purifications of the Magi, and in the Metamorphosis, Apuleius relates the various senses of an initiation into the mysteries of Isus or Isis. Even in the treatise on the Syrian goddesses, Lucen describes his visit to the temple of Heliopolis and repeats his conversation with the priest only superficially. Magi is the Sanskrit term Mahajagi, meaning great fire worshippers. The term Hieropolis is Sanskrit Haripur, alias city of Hari, means Lord Krishna or Vishnu. European Christian scholars have blundered in fancying that the goddesses of Phrygia, Thrace, Egypt, etc. represented different religions. They all formed part of Vedic culture spread throughout the ancient world from time immemorial. Here are some more instances of Western blunders. Sir Monir Williams, who has compiled a Sanskrit English lexicon, has explained the term kinchid ek, meaning any one or any other, to mean, quote, the name of a village in Mahabharata times, unquote. He arrived at this absurd explanation because of his incomplete understanding of an offer by Lord Krishna expressed in the Kaurava court on behalf of the Pandavas. Therein, Lord Krishna's offer was, quote, cede to the Pandavas Indraprastha, Brukapastha, Varnavarth, Jayant and any other fifth city or region. There, instead of realizing that term kinchid ek stood for any other, Mr. Monir Williams presumed that any other itself was the name of a city. This is an error which even a schoolboy would not normally commit. A British missionary, M.A. Sering, has in his book titled Banaras, the Sacred City of the Hindus, points out in the introduction, page XX1, a similar error in the understanding of simple Sanskrit by another European scholar. Mr. Sering points out that, quote, Professor Wilson everywhere puts erroneously the term Kasiraj as King Kasi. Actually, Kasiraj signifies the ruler of the Kasi kingdom. But what Wilson erroneously believed is that the term signifies Kasi as the king of the holy city. So, considering such instances, any implicit faith in the infallibility of Western scholarship seems unwarranted, unquote. There are also numerous instances of Western missionaries and others mischievously publishing and circulating in Europe spurious versions of the Vedas and other scriptures and denigrating them. Therefore, one has to be cautious even of Western motives, overt and covert. But apart from such detractors and distorters of Vedic civilization, there have been other Western scholars who have rightly judged the ancient universality of Vedic culture. One such, Mr. Count Byronsterna, observes, quote, "No nation on earth can vie with the Hindus in respect of the antiquity of their religion. It is there in the Aryabharta. We must seek not only for the cradle of the Brahmin religion, but for the cradle of high civilization of the Hindus, which gradually extended itself in the west to Ethiopia, to Egypt, to Phoenicians, in the east to Siam, to China, and to Japan, in the south to Ceylon, to Java, and to Sumatra, in the north to Persia, to Chaldea, and to Colchis, where it came to Greece, and to Rome, and at length to the remote abode of the Hyperboreans." Unquote. Time and again, I have pointed out in most of my episodes that since Vedic culture is the ancientmost and it pervaded the whole world, the Bible and Quran and every other scripture and every sect and community has repeated the story of the creation as revealed in the Vedic scriptures. The Greeks, for instance, derived their cosmogony from the Hindus, as is apparent from the account which Damascius gives of the doctrine of Orpheus as under, quote, "In the beginning, Chronos, meaning sun, out of chaos created Ether, meaning day, and Erebos, meaning night. Therein he laid an egg means Brahmanda, from which came fens, furnished with three heads." My viewers can understand. Three head means the Hindu Vedic trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Mahesh. Fens created the man and the woman from whom the human race is derived. The cosmogony of Egyptians also adopted the Hindu egg, which divided into two, formed the heaven and the earth. This is stated by Baba Saheb Deshpande in his book. Please watch the second part of this episode. Thank you.